This is Marketing Uncomplicated. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Uncomplicated. Today, I have Amanda Patterson, who is a seasoned tech marketing executive with 15 years of experience during explosive growth for companies from startup to IPO. I love this, guys, because it's an interesting growth spurt that some of you may go through and some of you may not, but still the connection in terms of the build out to that is incredible. As the former head of marketing at Mindbody, and I'm sure all of you guys have used Mindbody at one point in your life, she led the company's growth from 30 million to over 200 million, culminating in a successful IPO. During her tenure, she built a demand generation pipeline that increased leads by 300% in less than a year, expanded the marketing team fivefold, launched the customer app and brand, and created the Bold Conference, which grew from 200 to 2,000 attendees with speakers like Michelle Obama and Magic Johnson. Currently, Amanda is the co-founder and leader of Rocket Fuel Labs, a CMO as a service and performance marketing agency she established with billionaire investor and Priceline founder Michael Loeb, helping dozens of companies achieve consistent growth and meet their revenue targets. Right on target for our audience, Amanda, and welcome to the show. We're really excited to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so let's take a step back because I do want to dig in, obviously, to this amazing growth that you've had. You've had a front row seat to the full arc, from scraping startups to arranging the IPO bell. If you had to distill one lesson about growth marketing that still holds true in 2025, what would it be?
I think it would be that there's no silver bullet solution when you're trying to grow that quickly. You've heard the phrase death by a thousand cuts. So there, just as there are usually a lot of little problems that end up causing a startup to fail, there are also a lot of reasons why a startup succeeds. And so when it comes to marketing, you have to think of the big picture, of course. You have to think of the brand and make sure that it's resonating with your audiences, but the devil is in the details. And testing calls to action, testing forms, and how many fields are in the forms, and these things that we refer to as conversion rate optimization, they actually matter because they collectively add up. And, as the saying goes, when you're firing on all four cylinders, you're going to go faster. So that's probably my number one takeaway.
Yeah, no, I love that. And thank you for bringing that up, because I think what a lot of startups and a lot of entrepreneurs and founders think, it's like, oh, we're going live and the floodgates are going to come opening.
Right.
And that's never the case. It's like all of a sudden it's like this rush to get to launch and then it falls flat a little, but that's okay, right?
Right. Right. And the other, I think, misconception is that a founder will think that one channel is going to unlock huge growth for them in kind of a disproportionate way. And it might, but if that does happen, to your point, it's probably, there's going to be a lot of diminishing returns. And at some point that one channel is going to dry up. So that's, again, going back to kind of diversifying your channels and thinking about all the things you could be doing is really important.
And that's where what you bring up, the whole testing and learning, is really crucial at this beginning phase, because you're really introducing your product and service to the market and finding that fit in connection to your ideal customer profile that's really going to have that tipping point.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to kind of audience targeting, I think it's important to be very detailed as well.
Yeah.
It's not enough usually to just identify, like, if you're B2B, the job title in the industry. You want to think about, okay, but when are they having a moment where they're experiencing a problem I could be solving for them? And what are they doing in that moment? And where are they going for answers? And so you really have to think as deeply and in as detailed a manner as you can when it comes to those personas.
Yeah, and I love bringing this up, and I'm sure you've heard of this brand, and our listeners have. I mean, Liquid Death, right? I mean, they didn't reinvent water. They put water in a can that was as cold as beer, and they went out to all of these music festivals, and they started to hit their audience there. So they really penetrated right where their audience was en masse. So talk to us a little bit about not only just testing on one channels, but really focusing on where your target audience is and going there.
Yeah, great point. So we did a lot of that at Mindbody,
Yeah.
especially when we launched the consumer app, because, and you just brought up a consumer brand, it was just really good example. But consumer marketing can get really expensive. So at Mindbody, we one way to get in front of people, of course, where they're at is at events. And it's a really effective way. There was a yoga takeover of Times Square, and we showed up when the app first launched and sponsored the whole thing and had,
Yeah.
our brand in Times Square. And it was very, very condensed group of people, but they were like the perfect target audience for the app. And we got a lot of downloads all at once. Another example, I think, would be channel. So really thinking about, like, how can I reach consumers with a partnership with a brand that's already got that relationship with them,
Yeah.
so you don't have to go out and spend money for it.
Yeah.
And we had a client, Baby Quip, actually, who really successfully did this, and we helped them kind of, forge the relationship that they now have with VRBO.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of examples of that, but I think, getting in front of consumers, you have to get creative to do it in a cost-effective way.
Yeah. How would you say, I love partnerships and I think they're great.
Mm-hmm.
And how would you approach doing a partnership when you're a young company with a company that has the following, that has the branding? And how would you suggest, because it's a barter at the end of the day sometimes, right? And a lot of people may shy away from that, just being that they are just about to hit the market or they're new to the market. And their idea could be brilliant. So a company who's already established could be very into the fact that they want to partner with them. But how would you advise somebody looking to do partnerships to not shy away from it just because they're coming into the market and they're pretty new?
I would say, I mean, again, going after a partnership is like going after any relationship, whether it's with consumers or customers or anything else. You really just want to make sure that you know who you're going after and reach out to them in a way that um, that connects with them.
Yeah.
I'm
And
sorry,
then,
Sasha. Are
yeah.
you still there?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm still here. Did
good.
you lose me?
I did. Something happened with my
Oh,
screen, and yeah, you disappeared for a minute, but you're
oh,
back.
okay.
Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
yeah. That's okay. I can cut that out. So, go ahead. You say, for partnerships to create a relationship.
Yeah, to create a relationship, you really need to kind of go after that individual that you're trying to partner with and just kind of connect with them. It could be with a marketing campaign, an email campaign, or anything else. So yeah, so I think you just think of it like any marketing campaign, really.
Yeah, and it's almost like maybe start somewhere and not fully ask them to, reach out to their 300,000 list, but to maybe see how you could get in and involved with them in the beginning and then kind of grow with them once they start to see like success in the partnership, which I think is great.
Right,
Yeah.
right. That's
So,
right.
so let's take a little bit of a step back to your position at Mindbody. 300% growth in under a year. Incredible. A lot of people don't see this. And so we wanted to dive in a little bit to understand what were the key levers back then that worked for you and how would you compare them in terms of, a strategy shift in today's ecosystem?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think in today's ecosystem, you really want to make sure that you're really building like a bottoms up plan to kind of ladder to those top down goals. So, um, regardless of who you're going after, it's important to understand what your objectives are at the end of the day and make sure that you're very thoughtful about who you're going after. So I think that's kind of how I would answer that question.
Yeah. And what do you think your or how was your sort of synchronization to get to that 300%? And what were the bumps in the road that you hit along the way? Because obviously it wasn't, a full steam ahead. Everything was going extremely well. I'm sure that, there was a bunch of testing and learning and understanding, how you were going to do this on repeat to get to that 300% growth.
Yeah, so I think some obstacles along the way are getting out of your comfort zone when it comes to the channels that you're using. So, there was definitely in the beginning a heavy dependency on Google, for example, and like,
Yeah.
how do we diversify and think outside the box and think of other ways to grow strategically, other ways to get the word out about the brand? One of the things I think is really important if you are, because at that time, obviously Mindbody was a larger company, but really fostering and encouraging a department that is creative, and getting them off site. I used to lead a lot of off site sessions for us to brainstorm and to solve problems, because with marketing, you're never done. Like you never arrive. You have to continuously solve problems.
Yeah.
And yes, data can help you solve those problems, but sometimes creativity is what you really need.
I love that.
So yeah, so at Mindbody, we were kind of got creative. Like, for example, with the Bold conference, and how do we get Michelle Obama to attend this event? And how can we convince her to come? Like, that was a whole project.
Of course.
So I think creativity and strategy. But we tried a lot of things. You also have to have, I think this is really important too, some budget set aside for testing. Even if you're a small business and it's a small amount of money, you have to understand that with marketing, you need to try a lot of things, and because what works and what doesn't work might surprise you.
Yeah.
And with as much data and tracking as we have today, every marketing test is also an opportunity to do research in the wild.
Yes.
So I really encourage our clients to do that as well.
Yeah.
Make sure you're trying new things and pushing yourself and saying, it's okay if this test fails, because I set aside budget for testing and every test is giving us information. So, be okay with a campaign that doesn't work. You
Yeah.
need to try.
Yeah. I love that. First of all, I love that you bring out that you had a lot of offsite meetings from a creativity standpoint, because
Mm-hmm.
people think that, the misconception of marketing is that, oh, we're just going to go out and do some ads and, we're going to have a return and so on. And unlike a chief revenue officer or, anybody in a different sort of department, it's like they have one kind of set of goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our goals
Yeah.
definitely have the KPIs, but they are tied to what's happening in the environment. So we're a roller coaster ride. It's not that we set the goal and say, okay, we can meet them by X, which we can, but it's also determined and detriment on what's happening in the environment, what's happening to, consumer purchasing power. All of a sudden, like in the beginning of the year, we had a complete flip, for one particular industry that, I have a particular client who was in DEI, and that, was a complete shift, right? So it's really being, to your point, open to moving with the shifts of our economy, moving with the shifts of our environment, the shifts of our consumer purchasing power, and how do we really, be creative within, what is happening so quickly, and kind of jump to the chance and the opportunity.
Mhm. Yeah, that's right. And there's a lot of opportunities to be creative now with new technology. Um, but I think what's really important with marketing is to remember that at the end of the day, there's a person. And so, as much as you can kind of understand what that person is thinking, what would prompt them, like, try to look at your product and your solution and even your marketing from their point of view. Um, the way that you describe what you do or what you're selling is not necessarily how they see it. So the one thing I would add to, this whole notion of creative brainstorming is there were times where I actually had clients in the room.
That's
Um,
fantastic. I love this.
yes, I would bring the client in the room and, okay, we're going to talk about our brand promise and our value proposition. here's what we think is true about the company, and then look at our clients and say,
Do you
what do you
agree?
think?
Yeah.
Do you agree? And there were times when they would say, not really. I don't really agree with that, or that's
Love
not
that.
exactly how I see you.
Yeah.
What tends to happen is you get so invested in the company you're working for, especially if you're on the marketing team, and you get pretty emotionally connected
Attached.
and you're attached to it. And sometimes you need your client to say, you're not that important to me. This
Yeah.
is where you are in the hierarchy of tools that I'm using and how I see you. And that's okay. That can be hard to hear, but the truth at the end of the day is what you need to like market effectively. And your clients are going to tell you the truth. So
Yeah. Oh, I love that you bring that up, because I think if companies today don't have their ear to the ground and aren't listening to their customers, then why have you built your product? Why have you built your
Mhm.
service? And a lot of them
Mhm.
miss that. They're like, we have this great idea and everyone's going to love it. And it's like, no, I mean, you have to continue to focus. And it's not just launch, it's after launch, it's 10, it's 20
Mhm.
years down the road. It's an ongoing research.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
How
right.
how are you seeing companies today rethink demand generation, especially with, the infiltration of AI, maybe some attribution challenges, and obviously I wouldn't necessarily say that, the customer journey is fragmented, but it's no longer this linear line. It's like, as Google had said a couple of years ago, it's this messy middle. But how are you seeing that companies are approaching, this today?
Um, I think that, yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to the messy middle, um, it's attribution, tracking, everything. There is a lot of like instinct involved still. And there are certain fundamentals of marketing that are always true and continue to be true. Um, I think what's important is there are certain high level metrics that matter. So, the cost of acquiring a customer as it relates to the value of that customer, for example, unit economics, efficiency. There was a period of time in tech specifically where that didn't matter as much. People
Yeah.
were happy to just be growing at any cost, but I think now it does matter. So, I think recognizing what metrics are most important to track, being okay with a little bit of lack of information sometimes, but focusing on what matters and making sure that needle is moving in the right direction is the most important thing, I think.
Yeah.
Because it is messy. Marketing is always messy. My former one of the co-founders of Mindbody used to say that all the time. It's messy. It's
It
like,
is. Yeah. It's
yeah.
messy, and to your point earlier, it's never ending. It's
Yeah.
never ending. And it's this ongoing cycle that continues throughout the growth and the buildup of any company.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you built Mindbody's brand, and launched the app, as we talked about. How do you coach brands today in your current, business, to help them balance, long-term branding with sort of immediate performance goals? Because everyone's like
Mm,
ROI today, ROI today, you know?
yeah. Building the rocket ship while flying it, so they
Mm-hmm.
say.
Yeah.
Well, we do this a lot with our clients because a lot of our clients don't, I run into this quite often. They don't have a great website, or the website's not really working for them, but they also don't have the budget to totally redesign it. Um, and so we end up helping them kind of with interim solutions, where whether it be a landing page that we create and we drive traffic to the landing page, which we can then use to test value propositions. Um, and while we're doing that, we're learning. So we don't just set up our campaigns to understand what worked and what didn't work. We want to know why. If it
Yeah.
didn't work, why? So we're really clear about the hypothesis that we test, and then we can take that information and kind of use it to inform the overall brand and the overall website. and help our clients just, make some enhancements or improvements to their existing site as a stopgap until they do have the budget to totally redesign. So that's a very tactical kind of block and tackle strategy that we do a lot for our clients who have small budgets.
Mhm.
I would say bigger picture, thinking about Mindbody, which did have marketing budget when I was there. Balancing the brand meant, thinking about the long-term brand, I think and balancing that with performance goals, they were totally connected. I mean, when we rebranded Mindbody and we moved away from, Mindbody is this B2B software to we are connecting the world to wellness.
Yeah.
We are actually bringing these wellness providers together with people who need their services. And we're this like facilitator of this incredible relationship. And when we became synonymous with like wellness and a healthier, happier life, the demand completely followed. So I think it's a mistake as well for marketers and founders to go, well, I don't need to worry about branding right now. I just need to hit my numbers.
Yeah.
They're not mutually exclusive. And your brand is not just your logo. It is, what is it that you're saying that's compelling, differentiating, and true, and connecting, sometimes on an emotional level. Sometimes it's more practical, like you have this problem and we solve it.
Yeah.
But whatever that message is going to drive demand. And so you can't really, I think it's a mistake to try to choose between them. You
Absolutely.
do need to do both.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the whole, and I like that you say that it's not, branding isn't just about your logo and the pretty colors, right?
That's right.
It's about what is the content? Like what is
Mm-hmm.
your, as we used to call it the times, like when we used to write briefs, it was like, what was that single most selling message? If you can say it in one sentence, how would you say it? Right. And
Right.
how do you then take that single most selling message and build content that feeds your website, that feeds your digital ads, that feeds a
Mm-hmm.
booth at an event? That really becomes that expansion into how you speak to your audience, how you then continue to speak to your audience once they purchase, and so on and so forth. And a lot of folks don't want to invest in it. It's wild.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Um,
They think it's
it's
almost secondary.
Yeah. And I think too, they may think it's really expensive, like a luxury item from a
Yeah.
marketing perspective. Like I can't afford to go through a branding exercise. It's going to take 3 to 6 months and I don't have time for that. Especially founders, they're just super busy, but it is so worth the time and the investment. And I think it's important though to work with, if you're going to work with an agency on branding, make sure that obviously I have a strong opinion about this, but make sure that they have the voice of the customer as part of the process. And
Yeah.
they're not just having a meeting with you and then going away and kind of coming up with their ideas about who you are as a company when they've only known you for 5 minutes. You want to make sure that whoever you hire is like, I want to talk to your customers. Like,
Yeah.
let's get them in this process because that's where the insight is. And if you as a marketer can hold up a mirror in your marketing and your customers see themselves when they look at your ad, they see themselves when they go to the website, like this was made for me,
Yeah.
this is totally speaking to me,
Yeah.
then your demand is going to soar.
Skyrocket.
But doing that successfully without talking to your customers is like impossible.
It's like
So,
shooting blanks in the dark, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I do think that I personally would be wary, and I was wary when I was on the other side, when I was actually, head of marketing myself. I didn't want to hire agencies that were just really, really creative. I
Yes.
wanted them, because you can come up with a super creative, I mean, huge companies do this all the time. They come up with really creative, fun commercials that don't help them move product at all because
Yeah.
they're totally out of touch with the customer. So,
Oh, yeah, I completely agree. I mean, it's like I had one client that had a beautiful website, but it had it had zero functionality to be able to convert, you know?
Mm.
So it's like, it's where is the mix between those really creative marketers that can combine forces with the analytical marketers that are supporting the content build through to an ROI? And the
Yes.
two should be exclusive to each other, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and yeah, I think this, so then tell me, Amanda, how do you walk your clients through and kind of push them over the edge to then realize that the branding aspect is almost where you start from the beginning, whether you bring in a client who you're just helping launch or whether they've been in business for 4, 5, 10, 20 years, that's almost like, let's take a step back and, do an audit to optimize what the missing gap is, because it really stems from that.
It does stem from that. So, um, how do I convince them? I mean, I really try to connect them back to the client. One of the things that I see a lot with my own clients and just throughout my career is, especially with founders or CEOs, is that they have a very, very strong conviction about what their clients want.
Mm.
And like, no, my client's never going to like that, or that's not why they hire us, or that. And they will speak with authority, like, I built this business from the ground up, and I know my customers. And so it's hard sometimes to convince them that, to check in.
Yeah.
Um, but I think, if you can say, listen, if that were true, if you had it nailed, you wouldn't be hitting this wall right now where your campaigns are not performing, or they're coming to your website, but they're not converting. Like, clearly there's a disconnect and I don't know what it is. Approach it with kind of humility. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but
Let's dig in.
clear, if you're not getting the results you want, we need to talk to your customer, because, like, ultimately, if they're coming to us, it's because something's not working.
Yeah.
So I usually just point to the data and say, well, the data seems to indicate that there's some disconnect here. And founders are usually like, respond to that because they do want the truth. They
Yes.
do,
Yes.
they do want the data, and they do want to know if they're wrong. But yeah, that's kind of
Yeah.
how I approach it.
No, I love that, because I came across something the other day on Instagram, and it was, are you serving or do you serve your clients? And the difference is like, you serve your clients by doing the scope of work and they're like, thank you
Mm-hmm.
very much for the job done. When you're serving your clients, you're changing their lives, and, you're telling them no, and you're going above and beyond. And like you said, they want to hear it, even though they may be reluctant in the beginning, or to your point, they
Mm-hmm.
come off with that authority that they know, but really kind of flipping it psychologically, because I think as marketers, our second job are psychologists, and kind
Yeah.
of convincing our clients, and I don't want to say convincing, but moving them in the right direction that is beneficial for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, this is a good segue because, I want to talk about team leadership and scaling culture, because you did this 5 times, at the
Mm-hmm.
5 time growth at, Mindbody. And I definitely want to talk to you about how you've taken that learning and how you're embedding it into building the team for yourself at your current company, and how do you
Mm.
support clients through building their team and scaling their culture, because also that impacts growth as well.
Yeah. So the leadership layer of the organization is like critical.
Yeah.
Um, you have to make sure that your generals and the
Yeah.
people that are reporting directly to you and are managing people under them are completely aligned with you in terms of their core values and the culture, and they share what matters to you. Because ultimately it doesn't scale if it's all you.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm responsible for the entire culture of a team of, 80 people, which is how big the department became at Mindbody, or my current team of 12, then it's not going to scale. Um, I need the people who are in the day-to-day, in the trenches, to inspire their teams the way I inspire them. So it's kind of like the culture does need to trickle down, but that leadership layer is really important. And whenever I've seen issues on my team, everywhere where I've been ahead of marketing, if there were like culture issues, it usually was because there was a leader somewhere in the organization who was not, you know, not inspiring, not kind of making that culture a priority for his or her own team.
Yeah.
So
No, I like that. And I do think it's from the inside out. And it's like one customer
yeah.
service company that I do love, just because I use them all the time, is 1-800-Contacts. There isn't one time that I
Oh
have ever
yeah.
called 1-800-Contacts and ever had anyone that was in a bad mood.
That's awesome. I
I was
love
like,
that.
what are you guys feeding your team
Mhm.
internally? Because whatever you're doing, we need to translate that to
Mhm.
other companies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's so great. Yeah, it needs to be part of the culture, I think, for
For
sure
sure. For sure. It keeps people
to
coming back.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
even during times of COVID, it was great. So the age-old question that I'm sure you get asked a lot, or, because we're all talking about it, is, AI, right?
Mhm.
Not what it is, but in a way, what it is and how it's changing marketing, right? And
Mhm.
and how clients need to be looking out for it, because even as marketers, we're over bombarded, right? And I think
Mhm.
a majority of us do spend X amount of time just sifting through what has popped up all of a sudden in the market, in terms of, what's going to help me do this better? What's going to help me achieve this goal faster? How are you navigating that? Number one, for
Mhm.
yourself as a marketer, and then how are you helping clients onboard, through their tech
Mhm.
stack to bring AI tools in through the system as well?
Yeah, great question. So, similar to what I said before, where there's no silver bullet solution, AI there are a ton of AI tools cropping up. It reminds me a lot of like the dot-com boom that happened in the early 2000s, where all of a sudden, like the internet is changing the way everybody works. Um, but when it comes to marketing, I think there's a misconception that, oh, AI can do everything. Like we can outsource all of it to these tools. And that's also not the case. So it's important to think about, and we do consult with our clients. I have a tech team and a marketing and rev ops team that
Yeah.
recommends tools all the time. A lot of the major marketing tools are starting to integrate AI and AI automation, analytics, recommendations. So like Google AdWords and HubSpot, and a lot of them are just kind of rolling it out. So that's great. And I think you're going to see that across the board. I bet every tool is going to have AI as a component powering, because if they don't, they're going to go out of business,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to standalone tools, it's really about, I start with the problem. And that's the advice I give, is like, what problem are you trying to solve here? Are you trying to be more efficient? Are you trying to move faster? Are you trying to do more? So increase the quantity of ads that you're testing, or the speed at which you can kind of roll them out. Um, so and then once you kind of start with that problem, it's pretty easy to find tools that are addressing it, because there are a lot of them right now. Um, we are thinking about AI, of course, as an agency, in terms of I think of it as augmentation
Mm-hmm.
of human ability and our ability. So to the degree at which AI can help us ideate, help us do more testing, more learning, more data analytics, that sort of thing. We look at tools in terms of efficiency as well. So so start with the problem. Don't if you don't take the human out of it, because if you like, perfect example, if you have AI writing a blog for you that's optimized for certain keywords or SEO, like that's something easy to do. But you still need to look at it, because it's still going to be wonky. In my experience, like it's going to spit out content for you that is not perfect. And so let it help you, but don't just check out and assume that, oh, it's better than anything I've ever written because it's ChatGPT. Like, no, probably not. And there's probably some things in there that you want to revise and change. So I think for the people that understand the AI is a great tool, but the creative that comes out of it sometimes is a little bit off. And you still need to be a creative director. You still need to be a designer. You still need to be a writer and apply those skills to make sure that the campaign is going to resonate with humans, because we are not marketing to robots. So, yeah. So
it's the idea of don't copy paste.
Do
Make
not
sure,
copy paste.
yes. Never.
Yeah.
On anything, even before AI, So,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. So,
and then it's really, I think, like, what would you say, to stay away from? Because I love the legacy companies that are adapting, right? Because legacy, there's already trust, there's already built a foundation of, that these companies have been successful in their own realm. Now they're adopting AI. So a lot of us will tend to see what is like a HubSpot doing, what is, a MailChimp, or, other companies that are kind of growing in their own space with AI as an add-on. But I do like that there are additional one-off, AI companies that are blowing up. But for me, for example, as a marketer, I look out for things like, this tool can 20x your growth, or, those are the things that I'm like, can you though, because it becomes weary when they start to promise an ROI. So, as entrepreneurs, if you are approached by these companies, what kind of questions would you basically have them ask these companies so that they can make, and gather an accurate decision whether to sign on the dotted line with them or not?
well, I this is exactly why I say start with the problem, because a lot of AI companies and startups are coming out and saying, we're going to help you 10x your growth with this tool. And then, you find out that it's a content tool, or maybe it writes emails for you. Really, like, if you have a clear understanding of the specific problem you're trying to solve, then you should be looking for the tools yourself proactively and saying, gosh, is there a tool that can help me reduce the amount of time that my team is spending in meetings? Or is there a team that can help me kind of like auto generate? Like, there's this thing that's taking a lot of time. So if you're talking to an AI company and they're telling you these are the results we'll get, just say, what problem are you solving?
Yeah.
What problem am I? Don't talk to me about high level numbers and growth and things like that. Like, tell me, what am I doing now that's taking too much time or that's slowing me down? And this tool is going to take that off my plate.
Yeah.
So I would start there and then have them sell you on how they're solving your problem, to keep the pitch, make sure that they're keeping the pitch really grounded for you.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree. Grounded 100%, because it's the
yeah.
authenticity that comes out of that. And then,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, Amanda, you've taken some companies IPO. Now, obviously, it's a different mindset, when a company is ready to get to that point.
Hmm.
But in terms of the growth, it's really similar in that sense. If you agree, or maybe you would disagree in some certain aspects, but what truly is the differentiation when you are setting up somebody to get to that IPO stage?
Um, so with Mindbody, I talked earlier about this. I touched on it a little bit, but the bottoms up plan that ladders up to the top down goal. So understanding how you're going to achieve the numbers at a very detailed level, and then setting up a way to track it so that on a weekly basis, you're monitoring, how are we doing? Because if you lose 2 weeks, that's actually a meaningful amount of time in a quarter. A
Yeah.
quarter's only 3 months. So holidays, for example, like a lot of sales departments lose 2 weeks. So you have to get very granular in your tracking. That's what I did. The tracking was too high level when I arrived. It was like by channel, but the channels were kind of very broad groupings, and I couldn't see within the channel what was causing the needle to move up or down. So we got a lot more granular because if you want to IPO, you have to prove consistently for a good amount of time that you can accurately project and hit your goals as an organization. Because investors want to they want to invest in a predictable business. They don't want to invest in something that's like going up and down and you don't know how it's anyone's guess how you're going to perform. So we did that. And because we did that, we also set up our quarterly business reviews. We had quarterly meetings that were kind of like mini board meetings with the executive team. So by the time we IPO'd, we already had all the guardrails and the discipline in place. Nothing really changed. The only thing that changed post IPO was that we now, from a PR perspective, it changed quite a bit. Now we have quarterly earnings calls and a lot of like PR and communication, assignments that come from all of that. But in terms of like actual marketing, all of our processes were in place for a good solid 2 years before IPO, so that it was very seamless, and we IPO'd and then we just kept on
trucking through
going.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I do like that you say that, one thing when you're marching towards IPO is to make sure you're hitting your goals consistently. And I think as a company, regardless whether you one day want to get to that level or you're not, I think it's a good goal to keep. Wouldn't you say? Like,
absolutely. Absolutely. And it's easy to set a goal that's lofty and feel inspired by how hard it is and go, okay, this is our goal. We're going to do it. We're going to grow 300% year over year. But you have to sit down as a founder or as the CMO of a company and say, well, how are we doing this? And that's the not fun part, but you have to do it. And you have to say, okay, like how, and not sit down by yourself. If you're at a company that's about to IPO, you're sitting down with customer service and sales. When I worked at Mindbody, my partners in sales and customer service, they were also women, and our nickname was the triple threat because that's what our CEO called us, because we would get together every single week, all three of us. And just the three of us, and go, how are you doing on your numbers? How are you doing on yours? How are you doing on yours? And is there any breakdown between our departments that's causing this flywheel to slow down? Because a lot of times, that you don't want to be that. Here's the other thing. If you're pre-IPO, you don't want department heads who are competing with each other. Like, at all. Like, it's just, think about a Super Bowl team. Like, they need to be, we're all in it together to win, and no finger pointing, no like, oh, we didn't hit our goals this month. It's marketing's fault. It's sales' fault. It's customer support dropped the ball in onboarding, blah, blah, blah. Like, you can't be doing that if you're trying to IPO. You're on the same team and you're like, okay, what do we do now? And then you also have to be spending most of your time wargaming what you're going to do. So if there is a problem, yes, you have to understand what happened and why and get to the truth quickly, but forget about the finger pointing and all of that. You need to get immediately into, okay, what are we doing to make up for this month? Like, we had a bad month, but we still have 2 months in the quarter. We can still win. What are we doing in the second half of the game? I'm using a lot of sports analogies, but
no, it is true though.
Yeah. So you've got to have that. Again, it goes back to that executive team and that leadership team, having them be aligned with the vision, the mission, the goals, and working together as a really tight team.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love the analogy too. It works perfectly. So thank you for that, Amanda. When when stepping out, of working for these companies and launching Rocket Fuel, what was the main gap that you saw in the market that became who you are today with Rocket Fuel?
Yeah. So the gap I saw was that early stage companies, and when I say early stage, I'm thinking kind of like seed stage through, let's say, Series B.
Yeah.
Um, what they typically do is they hire a bunch of different agencies. Like they'll hire a freelancer over here and like an SEO firm over there. And, this firm is doing my PPC or whatever. I'm going to hire this firm to do my social media. And the founder is either managing all these firms themselves while not being a marketer, because 90+% of founders are not marketers. They are usually product people, which makes sense. Or they will hire a young and hungry, but inexperienced, but smart marketing manager which is how I started, like we all start there.
Yeah.
But they're kind of the jack of all trades, and they don't have the experience. So they're going to make a lot of mistakes,
Yeah.
and they're going to learn as they go. And as a result, they end up wasting a lot of time and money at the end
Yes.
of the day.
Yes.
It's like if you just had a fractional CMO or somebody who's done this before, but they can't afford to hire a person at that level in those early days. And so they just stumble and fumble the ball a lot. And it's sometimes a real shame, because it's like, oh my gosh, if you had just sat down for an hour or two with a fractional CMO who's IPO'd a company, you would have avoided making some of these mistakes. And by the way, that is a really worthwhile investment to bring that person in. And if you are going to hire an agency, make sure that the agency is thinking holistically about your entire business. So we created Rocket Fuel to fill that gap. We call ourselves a CMO as a service. We provide fractional CMO support. We put together a strategy and a plan. So we're not just like, oh, we'll run ads for you or we'll do this for you. It's like, no, we want to help you hit your numbers using the methodologies that companies that IPO use.
Yeah. And build the strategy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And build the strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this, Amanda. This has been super
Mm-hmm.
lucrative. But before I let you go, I like to do like these quick hits before, we drop off. So here's a couple I'm going to rattle off and just answer as they come to you. So a marketing hill you'll die on in 2025.
Creative matters.
Like it. A growth myth you wish that would go away.
Oh, Google didn't work for me, so Google doesn't work for us.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's true. Favorite campaign you've seen lately?
Oh gosh, my favorite campaign that I've seen lately. I'm completely blanking.
Oh, that's okay.
It's like, what's your favorite movie? Asking
I know,
a
there's so
marketer.
many.
There's so many.
Yeah.
Oh
Is it in the
gosh.
beverage industry? Is it wellness? Is it sports?
Yeah. I just continue to really, I mean, I like kind of the inspirational, aspirational campaigns. And so I continue to just really love Nike. I know it's kind of,
I think it's
an
great.
old brand, but yeah, I love it. It's like one of the most timeless ongoing campaigns, I think, in marketing and advertising history.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah.
that's proof in the pudding that they keep hitting the nail, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. What makes a marketer indispensable right now?
I think a marketer who understands analytics and knows kind of how to make sure that like I said, not just what's happening, but why. And if they have that combined with like a really strong and very, very good creative and brand instinct.
Yeah.
That's a kind of a unicorn, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I like that. So Amanda, tell us where folks can connect with you on LinkedIn, and obviously the link to your website, which we'll link below so that everybody can check it out.
Yeah, go to rocketfuellabs.com is the best way to reach out. And you can reach me at Amanda at rocketfuellabs.com.
Perfect. This has been super helpful, Amanda. Thank you so much for your time and all your
Thank you,
insights, and
Sasha.
congratulations on all your growth.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure. I appreciate it.